Hi, welcome to another Memory Keeping Monday. This is Shannon Tidwell, Garden Girl at Two Peas in a Bucket. This month we had a couple different themes to choose from. One of them was using paints and inks and sprays and things like that on your layout. And another theme was to do a layout about food and drink. And I ended up kind of combining those two themes together. I started out, I just wanted to do a layout about cupcakes because really I'm not much of a painter or inker or stamper on my layout. So I thought I'd just kind of go the safe route with doing a layout about the cupcakes. But as it turned out, I ended up incorporating a bit of ink and a little bit of pearlized paint into my layout. As you can see, this layout has a lot of different layers, a lot of different things going on with it. It has quite a few embellishments, which really are mostly just pattern paper layers on there. But I wanted to point out that was kind of a time-consuming layout for me to do, but it doesn't have to be like that for you. You could recreate a layout like this, and instead of using the silhouette cut shapes like I did, you could use die cuts, you could use stickers. Instead of doing 4 different cupcakes like I did, you could just do 1 cupcake and kind of just take it down a notch and not be quite so busy as my layout is. I wanted my layout to be a little bit over the top because the party was a little bit over the top, and I thought that's just kind of the best way to scrapbook it. And I'll probably use this layout more as a display, hanging up in her room or something like that. But it was fun to do. I certainly do not scrapbook like this all the time. It's way too time consuming to make this many layers and this many little pieces on a scrapbook page for me. It's not my usual style, but it was a lot of fun to deviate from my usual and do something a little bit different. As you can see, I went a little bit crazy with the silhouette and I cut a bunch of different cupcakes. I cut way more than I needed, but I figure I'll just save the extras and they'll make really cute cards one day when I need a birthday card in a pinch. But I wanted to have a lot of pieces to choose from because I really wasn't sure what patterns I wanted where, so I just went ahead and made a whole bunch of them so I had choices to put everything together. As you can see here, I'm adding a little bit of chalk ink to the pieces that I'm going to assemble together for the cupcakes. And at first I thought maybe I would do some machine stitching, but as it turned out the pieces were just way too little and I'm not that great of a seamstress, so I thought that the chalk ink would give it some nice dimension between the layers as well as the pop dots, and that way I could also incorporate the ink from the theme. So I use this is Color Box chalk ink. So to start out, you can see that my main idea, the idea I was starting with was the cupcakes. And then I found those cute cake pedestals that I thought would be really cute as a base for my cupcakes across the bottom of the layout. I wasn't positive what I would do with the photos at the top portion of the layout yet. So I just kind of started with the cupcakes and I wanted to get those assembled together as my starting point for the layout. So that's what I did. I just started inking the pieces, using the pop dots to kind of add the layers to them, and started assembling them together. Once I got the first cupcake put together, I was so super pleased with how cute it looked. And so I could really start to see that idea forming on the page and really wanted to get those pedestals out and kind of figure out what it was going to look like across the bottom there. I also did a bit more playing with the photos, kind of figuring out what I thought I would do with them across the top, and this is kind of where it occurred to me that I should cut them into a banner shape. I've been busy assembling a couple more cupcakes, and I also decided to add in some more pedestals across the bottom, and I thought they'd be cute in a contrasting color, so I did some in a blue with the text pattern across them. Pop dots are like the greatest invention ever. I love using pop dots I pretty much use them on every single layout I make, and I love these little bitty ones. I could cut them and fit them into little spots because I definitely needed to add some depth to the cupcakes so that they looked a lot more interesting. If they were just flat, they would be kind of blah. But with the different layers and the inking and the pop dots in between, it really makes them pop off the page. Okay, so here we go. I have cut into my photos, and I know that might make some of you cringe a little bit, and honestly, it made me cringe a little bit at first, but I had to remind myself, If I goof up, I can always order another print and I can print it off on my own printer, or I can run down the street and pick up a new print in like an hour. So it's not like I'm gonna ruin anything for good. And I took so many photos of this party that I've probably got like 5 more layouts I can do about it. So it's okay to cut into these photos a little bit and have a little bit of fun with the design. With so much going on this layout, I wanted to make sure that I had a special place to put the journaling. I didn't want it to get lost with everything else that's going on the page. So I dedicated a spot for it behind one of the photos. And you can see that I just cut some pattern paper, used some neutral lined pattern paper. And at first my idea was just to put the pattern paper behind one of the photos. But as it laid out there, the idea kind of changed a little bit. And so it changed so that it was more of kind of a mat for each of the photos. So I did a double banner, you could say, across the top. And I went ahead and added some stitching to that banner just to kind of give it a little bit of texture as well. All right, so at this point, I pretty much had a plan for how everything was going to be adhered down onto the page. So what I wanted to do was go back to the beginning and add a little bit to my background paper, and I'm just adding a tape trim around the edge of the background. Very simple. I'm just folding it over the edge, and then you can see that I also did a little bit of stitching around it. I just think it adds a nice finished edge. And here I've gone ahead and stitched down that first banner, and I went ahead and stitched it just because I didn't know if I wasn't sure how the photos would go on the top, and I didn't know if when I flipped them up if you would be able to see the stitching. So I just went ahead and stitched it real quick, and that way they sure won't move. And then I'm just going to lightly adhere the photos on top, and then I'm going to add the stitching to them once I have them in the right place. Okay, now comes the fun part. I've got the banners all stitched down, and you can see that they all 3 flip up, and this is where I should have stopped and done my journaling, but I was too anxious to start getting everything adhered onto the page. So I'm going to do the journaling, I guess, a little bit later. It sure would have been easier right here, but live and learn. So here we go, and I'm going to start just assembling the cupcakes onto the page and get everything kind of lined up where I want it, and then we'll adhere it down. And I'm sorry that the bottom is cut off a little bit, but the cake stands, I just trimmed the bottom of them off with my scissors to make them the right height so that I could kind of stagger them around the bottom of the page. And you can see that I kind of tilted them a little bit. I just wanted it to look kind of fun and flow across the page. Okay, now it's time to fit our title in there, and I went and grabbed one of the leftover suckers that I used as one of the toppers for the party, and I'm going to put it on the page, and I'm going to use that to kind of hold my title. I use my silhouette to cut this birthday flag banner, and I'm just adding a little bit of ink to it so it has a little bit of dimension just like all the other pieces, so everything kind of flows and goes together. And I'm also, you'll see in a second, going to add a little bit of stitching to it. I decided to do just to make sure it stands out on the page. I don't want it to get lost too much in the cupcakes. Here you can see the stitching that I was talking about, and doesn't it look so cute wrapped around the sucker like that? I was really pleased with how it turned out. And here I turn to my trusty loopy doodlebug stickers that I use all the time, but I really love mixing a cursive font with a block or capital font. And I was kind of a little bit worn out on using the silhouette and decided that I would just use some letter stickers, kind of change it up a little bit on the page. And I went with the black just because there were so many patterns on this page. I felt like the black really helped the title pop off the page, kind of separate it from everything else. And here, like everything else on the page, I'm adding some pop dots to the back of the title banner. And I kind of went crazy. I put a lot of them on there, but I thought with the weight of that sucker, and I just wanted to make sure it was stuck on there really good. So it's a lot of pop dots. Once I got the title on the page, I kind of played with it a little bit. The pop dots have a little bit of leeway. You can kind of buckle them up a little bit, and that's what I did. I wanted the banner to kind of look like it was just waving a little bit. I didn't want it to be straight across the page. It just kind of gives it a little bit more, I guess, personality. And so I just kind of played with it until it had the look I wanted. So now what I'm going to do, I felt like that white stick on the sucker needed some extra embellishment. I'm just taking some more tape and I'm going to wrap the tape around the stick and then trim the end, cut the ends of it. And here we go with the journaling. As I told you earlier, it would have been easier to do it before I had all the stuff on the page, just so my hand wasn't squishing down on the title and on the cupcakes. But it worked out fine. And like I said, the journaling is hidden. I didn't want it to really get in the way of the design, I guess, because I kind of pictured this layout hanging on the wall, maybe putting it in a shadow frame or something like that in her room. But the journaling is there, so I know it's there, and if anyone looks at the layout, they'll be able to easily lift that flap and look under there and read about the party. So the last touches that I decided to do to this layout really quick was add a bit of pearlized paint to some of the cupcakes. And you can see I'm just doing kind of little polka dots, and I did the polka dots a couple coats of it just so they had a little bit more dimension. And then I also added just kind of a little sliver of the paint to the cherry and the hearts on top, just so it kind of looks like the light reflecting off of them, just to dress it up just a little bit and add a fun touch to it. And here we have the final result. I hope that you guys have enjoyed watching this layout come together, because for me it was certainly an enjoyable one to make. Like I said earlier, this was a different layout than I normally do. I don't usually, I guess, use simple layouts, but I normally scrapbook quite a bit faster. And with all the layers on this one was a little bit more time consuming. But that's a fun thing to do every once in a while and kind of change things up, and it helps your creativity flow. So for your challenge this week, I'm going to challenge you to create a layout about food or drink. You could do it about cupcakes like I did. You could do it about your favorite place to get French fries. You could do it about, a girls' night out and your favorite drinks to have, or about hot chocolate. Who knows? But I just can't wait to see all your layouts in the gallery. Make sure that you check the right box for this challenge so that we can all see what you create. Thanks again for hanging out with me for this Memory Keeping Monday. Bye.